Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have a really exciting interview ahead of us about how to communicate better. Today, you're going to be meeting Michele Hayes, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who helps female business owners create a clear, concise message so they can connect with their ideal clients. Welcome to the show, Michele. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Suzy. Really exciting to be on with you.
Oh my gosh, you're from Australia. You have the cutest accent. I love it. I know we're going to have a great conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife hiccups and challenges might be getting in the way to some extent and are, getting in the way a little bit in your life as well as you're being a business owner. So many things can come up, and I love hearing these stories. So let's get started. Please tell us how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, what your entrepreneurial journey's been like, and how you help women. Take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm 55. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and my background is in education. So all my life I wanted to be a teacher, and I became a teacher, and I still dabble in teaching a bit. So I've been doing it for over 30 years. I'm sure many people in your audience have been doing something for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And I never wanted to be that person who hated teaching. I never wanted to be that person that's in what I call the retirement holding yard, because those people are not great teachers, right? So, and take out their sort of their misery and their discomfort with where they're at in life on these poor kids, because it's not their fault, which I think is one of the challenges of this stage of life. And I just knew that there was always going to be something else. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
In my head, entrepreneur sounded very, it was a bit Kardashian. It was a bit kind of, just not real. I'm comfortable saying it now, but it's taken me about 4 years. So that's part of the process of I guess, re-identifying who I am in the world. That's been a major thing. And strangely enough, I didn't step straight out of teaching and into making, lots of money immediately. Strangely, it didn't work like that.
Really? Because
I don't know anyone that does work like. I know, it's astonishing. And I didn't have unrealistic goals, but it was a strange transition. I moved into taking over something where I was going into schools running a wellbeing program, which wasn't owned by me. But I loved and was really good at the connecting with people in groups. And, I'm great at sort of being on the spot and talking and sharing and connecting. That's kind of my thing. But I had no idea how to run a business.
Right.
So no idea. And I didn't have all the infrastructure in place for me to just rock up and do it. I also had to be the person doing the invoicing and the setting up the times and the making sure the materials were prepared, all of the things, So then I stumbled across this concept of passive income, which I'd never heard, which sounds strange, but there I was 50, I just turned 50, I was approaching 51. And I'm like, what's this passive income thing? I've never heard. It sounds good. And apart from real estate, I just had no concept of how that could possibly work, because I guess our generation is you grow up, you get a job, you buy a house, you work, you retire, that's kind of the pattern. So,
well, you know what, Michele, it's that for sure. But I think it's also that this whole online business thing is pretty recent. If you think about all the years we've been working, right? So the online stuff is a very small portion of it. And then the passive income part of that is a slice. It's like an even narrower slice of what's become much more easy now to do in terms of the internet and online support. So I know what you mean. It's just like more concepts and more strategies that we need to learn about. We don't know anything about.
Exactly right. And obviously I'm comfortable with learning, but with learning comes a lot of failure and a lot of experimenting and a lot of going back to being at the beginning and not being the competent, highly skilled one. And I know I'm probably digressing into another question. So anyway, that wasn't working enough because it was someone else's product, and there were a whole lot of politics and a whole lot of, men kind of trying to tell me how things were supposed to be, and I was better educated than all of them. And I went, this is more stress than it's worth. And so then I thought, okay, what can I do myself? So I started in the education space because I knew it. I was working with teachers in particularly building relationships and moving away from this behavior management thing that everyone's obsessed with, because school's still being done the same way as it was 200 something years ago, Industrial Revolution style. A lot of things have improved, of course. And then little thing happened in between in 2020. So I was supporting a few teachers during COVID, and that was really helpful online.
Wow. Yeah.
But it just wasn't taking off. It just wasn't. And I had a couple of different coaches. I tried the membership kind of repeated small income thing, and that didn't quite work. Then I tried the course creation thing, and that didn't quite take off. And I've learned each step. But meanwhile, I've also had to earn income along the way. So there's that. Then about 12 months ago, I was with a different high-ticket coach, and it occurred to me that the thing I'm really good at is talking. And listening, but talking in particular. I thought, well, a lot of people are scared of public speaking, online in particular. A lot of coaches, and female coaches in particular, have a real block around getting on camera and doing lives. And that worked really well. I built a bit of a reputation, but it still didn't take off. And I've kept going, and literally, as we've discovered, between me even connecting with you and now, I've niched down even more. And my very original coach talked about the important that he said, the riches are in the niches. Is from Kentucky. And I like that because it's very catchy. But I didn't get it, and I thought I was. And what I've recognized is, if we're going to succeed in business full stop, but especially in the online world, and even more particularly as a coach, we need to be very, very specific and very small and very specialized like you are. And so now I do what I do, which is helping female business owners create a clear and concise message so that they can connect with their ideal clients and also drive away the non-ideal. And that's actually working. So there you go. So it's taken me 4.5 years, but here I am.
Now, when you say it's working, what does that feel like? What does that look like for you? I don't think it's just money, is it?
Absolutely not. No, I haven't bought my yacht yet.
I didn't think you did. I didn't think you'd bought your yacht yet.
I'll let you know. Just sense of alignment and knowing all day, every day that I'm doing exactly what I was supposed to do in the world at this time. And that is the most comforting, gratifying feeling. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Michele, that was a mic drop. Like, yes, there's that knowing. It feels right. You're in alignment. And when you have thoughts like that, it's so much easier to feel confident and feel like it's so easy for you to make a contribution and to really, to sell a package that is going to be super helpful, like all of those things. And I think, the way you just described your entrepreneurial journey to me is you're right on track. How are you supposed to know exactly where your genius is until you try a few things and pivot and tweak and try something else and pivot and tweak and understand how you're showing up and what you feel good about and what you don't like as much? Like the same thing happened with me with one of my early programs. I realized, wow, there's something missing. What is it? I love the women I'm working with. The message was good, but I'm not working with people long enough to develop the kind of relationships I want to do this work. I didn't see that coming, but when I look for clues, there are clues there. I was on the right path, but I had to figure it out. Once you figure it out, you have exactly what you said that's so beautiful. You made me very happy just hearing that story.
Oh, great. I'm so glad.
So good. So good. So tell me, when you said your skills as an orator, you're still so good at that. So how is that coming up in this work?
It's It's interesting because it's been sort of almost parallel. What I've recognized is actually that every single thing you talked about, the clues along the way, every single thing I've ever done has given me the skills and the experience and the knowledge and the expertise to be where I am right now. And now it's really that Oprah smack upside the head thing, of course. But it just gives me the confidence I'm able to listen to people and sort of synthesize a lot of information that they give me and pin it down pretty easily. Mm-hmm. And as a speaker, that's something you need to be able to do. There's nothing, we've all been, trust me, their education, there's 4 of them. They get up and just talk and talk and talk. And even teachers talk. One of the biggest problems that teachers have is like, oh, the kids aren't behaving. I'm like, well, you've been talking at them for 40 minutes. You try sitting still for 40 minutes and see how you go, right? Actually, it's about redoing our behavior. And even when I was sort of running workshops and things in public speaking, I was saying to people, look at what you're saying and treat it like you're accessorizing an outfit. Have a look at it and take something out, like you're removing a piece of jewelry or you're removing the scarf, and simplify it and bring it down. So there's very much a connection there of when people ramble on and on and on, we get lost and disinterested. And that's the same with our message. If it takes you 5 minutes to explain what you do to people, no one cares that much to stick around to find out.
Oh, you're so right.
You should be able to tell them in one sentence.
One sentence. That's the goal?
That's the goal. Of course, you can elaborate, but you're at a party and someone says, hey, what do you do? I don't want a list of your qualifications. I just want one sentence.
That's right.
And then, pass the cocktail onion or whatever, move on.
So good. So, as you know, I am very excited about this whole midlife intersection thing that's going on between midlife hiccups, challenges, stuff, and you trying to run your business the way you want to. So tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that have popped up for you.
Gosh, there are a few. Well, I mean, obviously COVID has had a significant contribution and a lot of people have absolutely flown in COVID. And I never, ever wanted to be that person that was ripping people off. And because there are a lot of charlatans out there who've made a lot of money. But for me, it was about also having my values being at the forefront, authenticity being one of them, honesty being another. And that sense of being a fraud and imposter syndrome is a massive thing.
Yeah.
And of course, menopause, the joy that is menopause. Now, I've been really fortunate with that. I haven't had a lot of things, a lot of people have, but I did end up with depression, and that obviously threw me. And so being isolated, being at home, having changed career, having gone from consistent financial stability to taking a risk was I have had the lowest of lows, and really thought, what on earth am I doing? I've got no right to be doing this. I should just go back to this. I think all of those challenges and questioning everything about myself and what my body looks like. Do I look good enough to be on camera? Or, all of those self-doubt things and what next? And if this doesn't work, I'm just a failure. And what right did I have to leave that profession that I was really good at? So there's been a lot of massive challenges and, financially really, really scary and skating. What's the expression? Sailing very close to the wind or something like that. Like really, how am I going to pay this?
I always say being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart because, we crave certainty. And even when we have an external employer, like somebody like a job, it feels certain because we get a paycheck, but your job itself isn't certain. But at least when you're there, you know that you don't need to generate your own work. And it is such a new skill for so many of us that were employed in more traditional work for 30 years. Very new concept, totally. Now, you also mentioned managing energy and sleep related challenges with menopause. Tell us how that played out for you.
Oh, very badly, many times. There were times when I just would avoid my computer, like I'd go for a week and there'd be this whole kind of battle in my head of, I know that I need to be doing this and I know I need to be, and not even kind of consciously aware of this battle, but looking back, and it still happens, but of this, the thing that I know I actually have to do the most, that's going to actually move the needle, And it's not about them making money, although making money is important. It's about, if I don't do this, people are not sitting around and waiting for me to turn up. Oh, I actually have to do it. And so this constant internal battle of what I now know, again, learning, is the entrepreneurial journey, that these massive highs and deep lows are actually part of it. And being uncomfortable, and my coach, says it all the time, you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you need to almost keep trying new things to be uncomfortable, because that's where the growth is. And I get that from being a teacher. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
I just didn't, it's being willing to, I think the number one thing for me is, being highly qualified and educated, and is going back to feeling like you're starting from the bottom, and you are at midlife when you are so competent at so many things. And, you're the expert at a lot of things, even, cleaning your house and having great systems in place. You don't want to feel like you're starting all over again, like you're 18. That's really challenging, because you don't have the energy to match it.
Yeah, it can be. That's for sure. I love that you brought this up, because it is so true that being a beginner can be really jarring unless we know the mindset that supports it to make it more fun. But in business, the other thing that we have, being older, not just older, but older and wiser, is that we also have this sensitivity to time, the passage of time. And that's like a backdrop of our experience as an entrepreneur in the middle, right? And so I wonder, did you also find yourself thinking, I'm running out of time, this is taking too long? This is taking too long. I have to get going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If at least once a week. Not so much now. Now I really feel like I'm in the right place, doing the right thing, and the feedback that I'm getting from the clients that I work with, and then that they're getting from their clients, and that ripple effect. I'm like, no, cool. It's all happening the way it's supposed to. That's okay. But absolutely, that was, I wanted to revolutionize the entire education system, certainly in Australia. Now, I was up against a monolith, and, it's not going to happen in my generation. So there was that real sense of gloom, and this is never going, that never thing constantly. And yeah, time's running out. And what's the point in me, when I make my first million, I'm going to be too old to enjoy it, kind of thing. Which is crazy. It may not be rational, but it's real.
Yeah, for sure. So if you're listening to this right now, Michele is really laying out a really excellent example of what I talk about as the new way to do business as an entrepreneur, which is this new midlife operating system. We need a new operating system. The way that we've been doing business, the way we've been exposed, the way we've seen other people doing business, it doesn't always work. I would say most time it doesn't work. It creates a lot of problems for us in midlife. So you've really explained some of the ways that the old operating system was creating problems for you, and you had to start learning some of the things that would help you now at this age and stage of life. So I don't even know if you knew that that's what you were doing, but that's what you were doing. So the other thing I noticed,
but I'm so glad.
Oh, yeah, amazing. So another thing that you mentioned in your notes is the changing relationships in your life. So how did that show up for you?
Oh, that's, possible, apart from obviously managing depression, which is under control. I got the help I needed. That's probably been the hardest part. A few significant things happened. One is that my dad died very, very suddenly in November 2021. And literally it was a phone call, and he'd collapsed, and massive heart attack in front of a bunch of people. My mum was there, and she saw it. And it was really obviously worst day of my life, but what then happened from there, I've really made a lot of peace with that. But there are a lot of things around the family dynamics and the relationships and the spillover and the external characters that got involved and people overstepping boundaries and a whole lot of stuff. And I really was required to step back and analyze my entire childhood upbringing. And this is probably normal for when people lose a parent. Obviously, it was my first time, re-navigating my relationship with my mother and my siblings and all of those things. And even in my marriage, like, what did that now mean for us? Because my dad and my husband were really close. So that was a significant one. and probably the most painful learning, but also in a sense the most beautiful, because it's actually given me a lot of freedom to go, okay, well, I'm still a daughter, but I'm actually now this person. And this is actually normal for my phase of life, and adapting to that, because I kept thinking my dad was 35 in my head.
Yeah.
He was 77 when he died. So there was that. So that was the biggest one, and that's obviously still going. Friendships are really interesting. I so terrified when I first started online. I could not go live on my personal Facebook page or anywhere because I was so worried about judgment of my former colleagues who are still friends. I'm well and truly past that now. And I've had a few social experiences with people where I've actually been in a space with them socially, and it's not a judgment thing, but they'll say things or they'll do things, and I think there's actually nothing in this relationship for me anymore. And I don't have the time thing again. I actually don't have time to be sitting in this, being drawn back into the way I'm maybe used to think, or maybe I even just tolerated. I don't have time for that. I don't have room. It's not an arrogance. It's about growth. And it's like, I wish you well, but again, we're just not aligned. So I have to, and I have obviously a bunch of great new friendships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing.
That is a beautiful thing. And thank you for sharing all that. I'm so sorry about your dad. But what you mentioned about friendships is a very common thing, and especially at this age. So it really surprised me. I've got something, my signature group is called the Women in the Middle Academy. And when I first developed it, when I first became an entrepreneur, the whole friend thing and the social thing really surprised me. I didn't realize that relationships were such a critical thing to overcome as we get older. And so I was hearing it over and over again with my experiences with my clients. And so I made sure that there was a relationship component in my signature program because it was such a big deal. And so it wasn't just to find friends outside of the group, but it was to make a group experience such that there were relationships developed, that it was a key part of the experience of, getting more excited about your life again and sorting some of these things out. It surprised me, Michele. I didn't see it coming. And I really don't know why I didn't see it coming, but I didn't. It was a big surprise. And the realization really shaped the development of my midlife entrepreneurial journey in terms of developing things that were a good fit for my clients. So I'm really glad you mentioned that, and not having time. And like the other thing that's so clear when we grow apart in relationships at this age, sometimes it's because a spouse dies or there's a divorce and things change externally. But sometimes it's because you are primed. It's grow time, baby. Let's have some self-development. And the people who are not as active as you are in these communities and challenging yourself and reconnecting with a new identity and all of this, they're not there. So it's not just that you don't have the old things in common anymore. You don't have the new things in common either. Right. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And that really surprised me too, because I didn't realize how much growth I was craving and how much growth I was doing. And other people aren't. Yeah. Maybe they're craving, maybe they're not. But, it's quite possible that the friend circle that you had is not doing the kind of stuff that you're doing. It's unlikely. So yeah, big disconnect. So it sounds like you experienced that too.
Oh, absolutely. And in reality, it's hard to know. It may have been something that would have happened at this stage of life anyway, regardless of whether we got into business for ourselves. Something I always used to say to little girls, 8, 9-year-olds, this devastation they have when their friendships break up. And I've gone through this with kids because I've worked in that wellbeing space. And so, some friendships are not forever. There's a grief process. That's a constant. And, I love my friends, and everyone's on their own journey, and they are growing in a different way from me.
Yeah.
It might be easy for me to look and go, oh, you're stuck there. But actually they might be really content with what they're doing. And that's actually not my place to judge either. Like, good for them. I'm going this way. But the relief that I feel when I am with people who have been in the coaching space, who've done a lot of work, that I don't need to explain everything about myself in so much detail. It's just very restful, you know? It's
Yeah,
kind of
I know what
like,
you mean.
okay, we don't need to talk about that. Let's move on.
Totally. So another point you made here of one of the challenges I wanted to ask you about, because it's so common. I hear it all the time with my clients, with people coming on to do these interviews. It's this awareness of discomfort with our bodies at this. So appearance, weight, being on a camera, doing these lives, all of that. And most entrepreneurs need to deal with visibility to some degree. And if you're in the online space, it's close up and personal, meaning authenticity, sharing a lot, and physically. A lot of times I'm holding the camera myself so I don't get the distance I would prefer. But it's like, it's kind of close. So tell me in your work, you deal with this a lot. And you mentioned too that you've had to deal with it with yourself. So how are you, what was some of the insights you had about that and how's it showing up for you?
Oh gosh, honestly, we could spend hours talking about this one. There's a lot of self-acceptance stuff. Now, what I realized, like a lot of women, I've dealt with the weight thing and the image thing, and it's an ongoing thing. And I'm right now at a point where I'm like, okay, I really need to prioritize my health, not so that I can fit into particular clothes, but because mortality, right? Also looks, I'm someone who's always been dead against doing any cosmetic procedures and stuff. And now I'm like, actually, maybe I'm not, and being comfortable with challenging my own thinking about it and not judging. What I've noticed is because of the feedback I get from people about how I am on camera, I can easily sit there and look and go, that line in my lips to this, and my face is too fat, and this, and my gestures, and and my voice sounds like that, and all those things. And what I've learned is if I do something like if I do a live video, I generally don't watch it back. It's done. It's out there. It's done. Now, sometimes I'll actually watch it now and I'll go, great stuff, which is great. And I've stopped looking at myself on that superficial dimension.
Right.
Because I know what the point I'm at now is getting my outsides to match how I feel about myself on the inside.
Right.
Because I feel like what the outside looks like isn't bringing the gold that's inside. It does come out because your personality shows and your face changes, and that's what people are drawn to. And what I also know is that everybody's so busy worrying, and this is a public speaking thing, everybody's so busy worrying about themselves and everybody judging them, they actually haven't got the time and energy to be that focused on you. And anyone who is that focused on you is a troll, and you don't want to worry about them anyway.
It's so true. So true. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I have a pair of tweezers and a mirror, tweezers in the car, because that mirror on the visor is at the perfect angle with the light.
Yeah.
Like that's the best place to tweeze. Right. And I remember not too long ago, I have a lot of like peach fuzz on my face. And I remember doing a video, and things that need to be tweezed. But I remember doing a video and the light hit just right. And I saw what was going on my face. It was like really lit with outdoor light. And I went, oh my God, I've gone on camera with something on my teeth. One time I was on camera and I didn't realize this, but I do have a very large dog. And after I posted it, my sister texted me and she's like, do you know that your dog has taken a poop behind you in that video? I'm like, no, I didn't know that.
Fantastic.
Well, I was mortified, so I deleted it because I thought that's too much. But weird things can happen, and working at home, weird things happen all the time. But having weird things happen is one thing. Being more comfortable with speaking and having close-ups of your face, and really putting yourself out there as an authority, as having something to contribute, putting yourself out there on days that you don't feel like it. How authentic are you comfortable being? There's a lot to think about, and that has been a stretch for me too. So I love that that you mentioned it. It's something that I don't know anybody who hasn't had to work on it, who's in this space.
No, totally.
We all have to work on it.
And anyone who says they're not isn't telling the truth.
Yeah. And I think ultimately,
I really don't.
Ultimately, we're doing this because we like to help people. And if being authentic and speaking actually helps people, that is a very good thing. I mean, how much more, it's so fulfilling to actually make an impact like that. But you have to get over yourself. That's for sure.
I'm so glad. That's exactly what I was going to say. You do. You have to get over yourself, because ultimately it's not about us. It's about the people we're helping.
Absolutely.
And so if me getting over the size of my face means that I'm actually changing someone's life and they're not tossing and turning. And, you know, I had a client reach out to me. She'd booked in her first session, and she sent me this email, and she said, I'm so angry and frustrated, not at you, but I used this excuse of having to wait till after Easter. What a load of BS. And I just need to do this now. Can you please help me? Like, let's move it forward. I don't have the room to go, well, I don't feel like it now. I'm like, this person is crying out to me for help, and I have a responsibility. So exactly that, get over it.
Yeah.
Help her right now.
Yeah.
She needs me right now.
Okay. So the one last thing I wanted to ask you about some of these challenges and stuff, you said you're a recovering people pleaser. So tell me a little bit about that, how that has come up and how you're working past it.
I did not realize how much that ran my life. I mean, it really, and it wasn't until I had the clinical depression and sought some help with it. And the two things that came up were unrelenting standards. And so I've had to relax a lot of those. And probably not uncommon again in our age group to have that. And this people pleasing thing and seeking approval. And I definitely think it's very common in Gen X. Like, I think we've been brought up to do as we're told and to not make waves and because I said so and this kind of stuff. And so much. I spent a lot of time seeking my parents' approval, seeking guys' approval, seeking bosses' approval, and being a yes person, because that meant people liked me and they were happy. And it has cost me so much. And it's so bizarre that when you get comfortable with just saying no, and that's all you need to say, people actually respect you more and want you around more. So pushing through that, it's an ongoing, like most recovering people. It's still my default position. And if something goes wrong, I automatically blame myself. But I'm better at managing and navigating it and looking at it with a clearer, bigger picture than I used to. And sometimes it's just, I actually just don't want to. And getting over this concept that taking care of yourself is selfish. That's been a massive thing for me. And again, I think for women, for mothers, for people who've been in service industries, like nurses, teachers in particular, it's all of this stuff is ingrained in us.
Definitely.
So, that's big challenge.
It's like we're finally learning, because you're right. It was part of our upbringing, society, and in the families too. I was also told what to do, and we knew how to be a good girl. And to be a good girl, we need to follow the rules, and do the thing.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So if you had one piece of advice to give to people about how to be more clear with their communication, you've said the one thing that needs to be in a sentence. What's one other thing that you could share that would really help communication?
I think the biggest thing, and everybody I work with pretty much says this to me, is, I just want to help everyone. I can help everyone. And I say, no, you can't. And maybe you can, but not initially. You need to really work out who it is. There are three things I say to everybody I work with. Who are you helping? And really, really pin it down. What problem are you solving? And equally as important, what lights you up? And you have to have all three. And when you really, and that's what I do with people, and it's a process, and sometimes you can work it out in 10 minutes and sometimes it takes months. When you have that, then you will have a thriving business, but also you'll be living your life's purpose, because you're doing what fulfills you, but also what serves the community and the world.
Yeah, that is great. And you're right. It does need to light you up. If it doesn't light you up, then it's not going to fly, even though there might be a need in that community. You really have to get excited about your work, or you can't sustain the ups and downs of what's going on and being an entrepreneur. My goodness, it's impossible.
Totally.
Okay, Michele, that's it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to share all of this good stuff. And I really appreciate your focus and attention to clear communication and helping women dial it in so they can ultimately help more people, even though it feels counterintuitive sometimes to slice the pie even narrower. It is the way forward. It really is. So I really love what you're doing. Thank you so much for being so candid too about your journey and the kinds of things that have been coming up and getting in your way. I really enjoyed having you on.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy chatting with you, and I really appreciate it.
Amazing. So that is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We would love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.